All right, so welcome to our Thursday deep dive. Today we have Alex from the Blue Valley office. He is going to take you through how he uses Google Forms. Google Forms is a free tool that's part of the G Suite tool set. It's what I use, what I was using before all this madness to do registrations for training. It's a great way to collect information. And Alex has really capitalized on it and used it for his buyer and seller, his kind of his interviews and set up for his meetings. So he's going to walk you through today how you can use those to collect information and really keep yourself in a consistent system. And make sure that you're asking them the same questions every time, which is important on many different levels. So Alex, I'm going to go ahead and have you take it away and share your awesome knowledge with us.
Sounds good. Well, one of the very first things that I was excited about when we switched over to G Suite was our Google Forms capabilities when we have G Suite enabled. So I immediately started building out my forms to match the Ninja process. So I've got one that focuses on buyers, and I've got one that focuses on sellers. Now, obviously, we're in a relationship business, so what I'm not telling you is that you need to completely automate everything, and you don't need to talk to them on the phone, and you don't need to listen to Terry Johnson when she says that you need to do these phone interviews. That is not what I'm saying at all. All of that's really, really important. One thing that I've found, though, is that we are, especially if somebody doesn't know you very well, I feel like there are a growing number of people that are uninterested in spending longer than 5 to 10 minutes on the phone with somebody that they don't know, that they don't have a relationship established with yet. So I actually started this because especially with relocation, sometimes it would feel a little odd to introduce myself over the phone and then start asking them all sorts of personal questions about the home that they eventually need to sell. So I built this out basically to avoid having these really long conversations with sellers that are eager to just get off of the phone. So then I had it expand to using it for just about everybody, whether I know them well or not, because I found that there was a lot of information that I was getting from these forms that I wouldn't necessarily get from a phone interview, just because people have a little bit more time to fill them out and give it some thought. Sometimes when you ask somebody something over the phone, they're really looking for that right answer. And so they just kind of throw something out there, and it isn't always exactly what they want to say, and it isn't always something that's helpful to you. So with these forms, I found that I get the straightforward, honest answer most of the time. And I always print out the results and make sure that I have it in my file for these people. So I want to kind of give you an example of the, right now I've got the buyer one up, so I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to give you an example of what a buyer would see. Now, before I send this to somebody, especially if I don't know them yet, I'm going to give them a call, and I'm going to spend probably about 5 minutes or a little longer talking to them. But what's good about having this form available is my conversation can really be rooted in establishing common interests, establishing a relationship, and identifying the ways in which I'm going to be relatable to this buyer, right? I can really spend time establishing that rather than spend time, figuring out all of their needs or just waiting until a consultation to really ask them some deep questions. So again, you would spend some time talking to them on the phone and establishing a rapport before you send this to them. All right, let me share my screen really quick. All right, can everybody see this okay? I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So first thing, you always want to make sure that you, and I'm going to walk you through how to build everything. I always make sure that I'm going to capture the email address of the person filling it out. And there's a setting that you can mark when you're doing this. But the reason why I have it set up this way is that if I have it set up like this, you'll see I can paste the link to this form on my website. I can paste it on my LinkedIn. I can put it just about anywhere, and it can be a standalone lead generation tool all in itself, if you have it set up the way that I'm going to show you. Okay? So all the buyer has to do is put in their email address and click next, and it's going to start boiling down the process. I've even built in the mandatory Kansas and Missouri agency disclosures on my form. If they want to move to the state of Kansas or Missouri or both, they have the opportunity here to click on these links and see the Kansas or Missouri real estate brokerage disclosures. And then they can mark that they have read and understand the applicable agency forms. So I'm covering my bases, making sure that this is something that's been provided to them up front. I know that that's something that we often skip over. We shouldn't do that. They have to mark this box in order to move forward, by the way. Next, it's going to ask them for their legal name, their phone number, and their preferred method of communication. And something that I need to add here, people are becoming more and more comfortable with having a video chat type of a interview or discussion. So I almost recommend that you add that as well. So I might add a Zoom call or video conferencing, something like that, okay? Next, will you be the sole owner of the property? On this one, I have a variable set up. So if I mark yes, it's just going to move forward to the next question. If I mark no and click next, it's going to ask me who the other purchaser is going to be. Okay, so there's actually some logic built into buyer forms or built into Google Forms as well. You can make it so that if they answer in one way, it's going to send them to one question. And if they answer in another way, it'll send them to another question. So it really helps keep the form customized to what this buyer's question should be. It works pretty well. So in this case, if I were buying a home, my wife, Sarah, would be the other person. And let's see, sarahj@gmail.com. That's not her real email address. I don't know what her email address is. Now, I do remember her phone number, which I've learned a lot of people don't remember their spouse's phone number if they're my age, which is wild. We just stopped memorizing phone numbers at some point. Okay, once I've moved past that, you have the option to put in your current address. Now, I really like to have this because even if they end up not buying from me or not buying at all during this period, I have their address to set them up on direct mail campaigns. And so I always want to make sure that I ask for their current address, and I always want to know whether or not they're currently renting or owning, okay? So I always make sure that that's something that's built directly into the form. And then standard ninja question, I always want to know a little bit about their current home and what's motivating them to make a move. And again, a lot of these fields are required, so I've got to type a little something in. There we go. I'm putting in flippant answers, ignore them. I just want to move forward. Next, I'm going to ask them a little bit about their desired location. I want them to tell me where they're thinking about buying. If there's a certain subdivision that they would prefer, that's right here for them. There's a school district that they would prefer, that's right here for them. How many bedrooms, how many baths. And then I drill down the top 10 wants for the new home. Now, I don't know about you guys, but eventually I got really tired of following the ninja. I mean, I love the ninja process, I do. But when you sit down with a buyer and you do the pieces of paper exercise and you have to sit there in silence in front of them while they're filling out their 10 wants and needs. I just always felt uncomfortable about that process. And usually they were trying to hurry up and write something down just to get something on the piece of paper. So I've worked in the top 10 wants and needs into my form so that I never again had to sit across from them and wait for them to fill that out. So they put in their top 10 wants, and then I asked them to narrow those top 10 wants down to their top 3 things, okay? I asked them for their desired price range. You can or can't, you can always modify any of this. Will you need a loan to purchase your home? And then if the answer is yes, again, I've got logic set up so that it asks, are you currently pre-approved? Whether they answer yes or no, I have it set up to ask them who they're, if they are pre-approved, it asks them who they're pre-approved with. And then it asks if they want a Goering Group team member to provide them with a list of lenders. If they mark that they are not pre-approved, it still asks, would you like your Goering Group team member to supply a list of trusted lenders? So I ask that question no matter what. Because I'm on a team and because I do use this as a standalone lead generation form, I have it built up to, I don't know why Janelle's picture isn't showing up right there. There she is. I do have it set up to allow them to pick the agent on my team that they would like to work with. So for the teams that are out there, this is something that you guys can use as well. I'll pick Janelle. I want to work with Janelle. I know Janelle's on the call, so. Finally, I want to get an idea of when they want to move and what their kind of deadline is. And then I give them an opportunity to set an appointment date. So let's say 07, 3, great. And then they just have to click submit. Now let me show you what it looks like when I receive that. So as soon as somebody clicks submit, I'm not real patient, so I'm just going to keep on refreshing the thing, even though I know that eventually it'll show up if I don't refresh. Come on. Come on, internet. Well, I know it came in because I got it on my phone. There it is. So here we go. Can you guys still see this screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Yes, great. On Google Forms, they just sent me an email, and it says your form, buyer pre-consultation interview has new responses. If I want to see what these responses were, I just open the email and I click on View Summary. I go to Responses. I go to Individual. And actually, I'm going to show you one that actually I just had somebody fill one out today. So I'll do that one just so that you can kind of see what a real buyer looks like when they fill this out. So it gives you their email address, that they have read and understand the applicable agency disclosure, their full legal name, here's their phone number, they prefer to communicate via email, they'll be the sole owner of the property. When you're looking at the results, it's still going to give you the questions that the form did not ask them to fill out because of the logic that I was describing earlier. So you just kind of have to skip over those. Gives their current address. He's currently a renter. This is a description of where he lives right now. He did not fill in what's motivating him, but we discussed that this morning, and so I was able to ask a little bit more about that. one thing that I have set up that you didn't see before, if they say that they currently own a home, I also have it set up to say, you've indicated that you currently own a home. Would you like your Goering Group team member to discuss our listing services with you? And they can mark yes or no on that. You give me your desired location. He wants to be in Lee's Summit or a little bit closer to the City Inn and around Brookside. Sounds like a referral might be coming somebody's way. They want 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Here's their top 10, narrowed to top 3, 250 to 350. Yes, they'll need a loan, all this stuff. They want to work with me, and they want to live there in fall of 2020, and they wanted to meet today. So I got all of this information from a form that they filled out yesterday, and I was able to have that ready to go before I met with them virtually this morning, which meant I was able to go onto the MLS, build out a search for them, get an idea for whether or not what they wanted was reasonable and possible to obtain, and have a full description of what their process is probably going to look like with me, tailored to the answers that they had on this form. Okay? So to me, this is a super valuable tool. To some people, they're going to rather go through all of this in person. But for me, I find this to be extremely valuable, and it became kind of a critical part of my business. Now, I'm going to show you what it kind of looks like to build this out. And then we'll talk a little bit about the buyer process and the seller process and the types of questions that I ask on there as well. So give me one moment here, and I'll open up a new form. All right, so to get to the forms page, you're going to click your trusty waffle over here. You can come down and click on forms. If you don't see forms, it's probably because you never clicked on it before. If you scroll down just a little bit more, you'll be able to see like a more option, and you'll find Google Forms in there. But you all have it available to you. If you want to create a new form, you're going to click this plus button right here. All right, since I'm building out a listing or a buyer consultation form, I'm just going to kind of fill out this fairly quickly just to give you an idea of what it looks like, okay? So I'm going to call it a buyer pre-consultation form. You can call it whatever you want. First question is going to be their name, right? So you're going to say full legal name. This also takes care of trying to figure out what their middle initial is when you're filling out that offer for the first time, because you're probably going to have it already. What's kind of cool is that Google has automatically decided that this is probably going to be a short answer question. So they're going to fill out their full legal name right there. And it's pretty intuitive. So whatever question you type in, Google can kind of guess what kind of an answer you're looking for. The next question might be, what is your phone number? It automatically changed it to short answer without me having to do anything. Next, and I always recommend asking this, what is your preferred method of communication? And it's going to stay at multiple choice because that's what probably makes the most sense. So different methods of communication, we've got email. And then I just click down here to add an option, and I can click phone, or it just auto-populated that. Add an option, text, add an option, video conferencing. And then you have the option to add an other answer. So you can click on add other, and it will give them the ability to fill in the way that they want to be communicated with. It's probably not actually how I'd fill out that question, but I'll leave it there just so that you see it's an option. Next question. let's do, what is your current address? And then we'll say, do you currently rent or own your home? And then we've got multiple choice. We'll say rent, own. All right. So next, what's kind of, what you probably noticed when we were going through my form, we've got multiple pages of questions. And that really helps when you're filling something out, because it sort of breaks it down. You feel like you're making some progress if you're filling it out, rather than having it be just one really long, big form that you got to fill everything out. It can be kind of overwhelming. So now that I've gotten a lot of personal information about them, I'm probably going to move on to another section of the form and have them click next to move on, okay? A couple of these fields, before I do that, a couple of these fields are going to be required. So full legal name, I'm going to mark that as a required field. They need to fill this one out in order to move on. Their phone number, I'm going to require it. Method of communication, I'm going to require it. Current address, I'm going to require it. I want to know. Currently rent or own, I'm going to require it. Okay? All right, next, we want to make a new section. This little toolbar follows you as you're filling out a Google form, as you're creating one. So this is, all of these are your friends here, okay? You're going to click Add Section. And I'm going to title this question, or this section, Listing Services. I'm going to assume that this person marked own, okay, when it asked, do you currently rent or own your home? And I'm going to show you an example of building out that logic that I was describing earlier. So once I've created this new section, I'm going to click the plus button to add a question. And I'm going to say, you indicated that you currently own your home. Would you like a Goering Group representative to discuss our listing services with you? Okay. Option 1, yes. Option 2, no. Great. And that's the end of that section, right? Next, I'm going to create another section. I'm just going to call this one, again, this is an example, so I'm not going to get too terribly creative. What you're looking for. Okay, so now that I have all of these sections built out, I need to look at the logic that I was discussing. So down here in tiny little print, so you kind of have to remember that it's there, down here in tiny little print, it says after section 1, continue to next section. Now, I can select what's going to happen here, right? If I click on that drop-down menu, I've got a couple of different options. Since this section down here is contingent upon their answer to this question, I'm going to click within this question. I'm going to click on the 3 dots here, and I'm going to click Go to Section Based on Answer. Okay? And when I click on that, I can dictate where they're going to go based on the answer to this question. If they currently rent, they're not going to go to the listing services question because that wouldn't make any sense, and that wouldn't be a form tailored to their needs, right? That would be a waste of their time. I'm going to have it go directly to section 3, what you're looking for. If they say that they currently own, I'm going to click on this drop-down menu, and I'm going to say, go to section 2, listing services. Now, what can be a little bit tricky is that I find it easiest to build out the logic after I've already built out the questions so that I know the order of the sections and how all that's working. So I like to build it all out and then backtrack and select the logical pieces like I did here. So I build out a couple of sections ahead, and then I backtrack and select which answers send you to which section. I find that to be most effective. So now, one thing that I always recommend as you're building this out, especially as you're doing it for the first time, is that you go in and you preview what your form looks like. So you can preview it by coming up here and clicking on the little eyeball up in the upper right-hand corner. And when I click on that eyeball, it's going to tell me, it's going to show me exactly what a prospective buyer would see. And you can test it all out. So Alex Goering, 913-638-4662, email. I currently, let's say that I currently rent. And if I click on next, it takes me straight to what you're looking for, which I haven't filled out yet. If I go back and I say that I currently own and click next, it takes me to listing services and says, you indicated that you currently own your home. Would you like a Goering Group representative to discuss listing services with you? So it works exactly the way that I wanted it to. I'm happy with that. I'm going to exit out of my preview and come back to editing the form. Does that all make sense? Any questions so far about building it out this far? Anything? Oh, Sheila, are you trying to talk?
I am. How did you get out of that form? I've been kind of doing mine on my own. I didn't just answer those, but you said, well, then you can, after you've previewed, you can click and get out of your form. Sure. I wasn't watching, I was looking at my form, so. Oh,
that's okay, no worries. So to get out of it, when I clicked on preview, it opened up another tab. So I just X'd out of the tab that it opened up in.
Where is that exit though?
So let me open it back up. When you hover over the tab here, you see the little X that my mouse is on?
No, hold on. I gotta find your mouse. Okay, there's your mouse. Where's your?
And up there, there's a little X right here.
I don't have a little X that I can see.
Are you on a PC, Sheila?
I am on my office computer, yeah.
Yeah, mine looks a little different because I'm on a Mac. I couldn't tell you exactly what it ought to look like for you. But if it opened up in a tab, you should be able to just X out of that tab. And hopefully it goes back to the form that you were just editing.
Okay. Yeah, because going back doesn't work, you know, like the arrow.
Sure. Right. Sorry, I can't be of more help on that one. I just can't totally see your screen and give you the right answer there. But if you want to stay on afterwards, I can help troubleshoot that with you.
Perfect. How do you edit it if you find a typo? Like.
Oh, that's a good question. So if you're on your form and you're testing it out, you're previewing it, and you want to edit it, you do have to go back to the edit part of it when you were creating it, the form builder. You cannot edit it within the preview. So you do have to go back to where you were before in order to do that. And Sheila, rather than exiting out of the preview, you should be able to find the tab up above that it should have a little purple icon that you aren't on right now. You should be able to click on that and it'll take you to the editable portion.
All righty. Well, I'll find it later.
Sounds good. I'll move on.
Perfect.
Alex?
Yes.
Alex, Daly wanted to know where the eyeball was.
Oh, good question. And I appreciate you did you see that in the chat?
Yes.
Thank you. Janelle, you're in charge of the chat now. I'm not able to look at the chat while I'm talking. So if you catch anything in the chat, you just tell me. All right?
Okay.
The eyeball is in the upper right-hand corner, up where you see send and the little cog for settings. The eyeball is right next to that. And you can click on preview and you can test out your form. Okay? Very good. I think you guys probably get the hang of how it works to build out sections, but I'll do one more just in case, and then we'll get into personalizing the form. So I'll build out one more section. So what you're looking for. Again, don't call it that. Come up with something more creative than that. I'm doing this on the fly and trying not to put too much thought into it. If I click plus to add a question, I might say, what area are you searching in? And
Alex, I'm sorry to bother you. One more question from Daly. The icon to the left of the eyeball, it looks like the palette.
uh-huh.
I think she wanted to know what that one was.
Oh, I'm going to get into that, but
Great.
not yet. Not
Yep.
yet. I'll answer that one soon. All right. So section 3, what you're looking for. What area are you searching in? I'm going to make this a short answer. Google wanted me to make it a multiple choice. So if you don't like what Google's automatic selector picks, you can click over here on this drop-down menu, and you can click on short answer right here. I've tried to turn off my alerts. I hope you guys aren't seeing that every time it pops up. All right, what area are you searching in? And they have an opportunity to do a short answer text. Next, I might ask them, I think in my form I say, is there a specific school district you'd like to live in? And I'm going to make this a short answer as well, okay? Next, I might say, how many bedrooms or bathrooms? How many bedrooms? And then I did this one just a little bit differently. You can do a drop-down menu here, which is what I kind of like to do. I'll do a drop-down menu, and I can say 2, 3, 4, 5 plus, okay? Add question, how many bathrooms? And you know, what can get a little bit confusing, I think at one point on my form, and maybe I still have it this way, I asked how many full bathrooms and how many half bathrooms. Just ask about full bathrooms, discuss the half baths later. They don't know, they get confused. They start asking, well, I thought I wanted a 3/4 bathroom. I had that happen the other day. I don't understand how that keeps on. Why are bathrooms so confusing for some people? That's it doesn't happen terribly often, but there was a guy I was talking to the other day, and he was confused about half baths versus 3/4 baths, and on my form, he called and asked about it. So on this one, I'm just going to ask about full bathrooms.
Before you were an agent, Alex, probably when you were in high school or something, we called bathrooms with showers and not bathtubs 3/4 baths.
Man, you guys were weird back in the day. Back in the day, Joanna.
Did not count as full if you only had a shower. So there's
It's so weird. I don't get it. That is odd. All right, full bathrooms. We're gonna say 2, or no, we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4 plus. Again, you can make these whatever you want. All right, and then finally, and I think that this is a question that I would want to add to mine. I don't think that I have it now. I might ask, because this could give me some insight too. Are you currently set up on an MLS search? Right? Answers to this one might be yes, no, or unsure. They might not be totally sure what that means. But for me, if they mark yes, that kind of clues me in that they've been talking to another agent. It clues me into whether or not they're receiving listings from a source other than Zillow or Realtor.com that might be a little bit more accurate. It also sets the stage for me to offer that up as something of value that I can provide them with if the answer is no, okay? So that's something that I might add to mine later on. And then I'm going to go back. This is something that I always forget to do, and it is important. You need to make sure that any fields that you want to be required are marked as required. For instance, on this one back here with listing services, I forgot to mark that as required. Mark it as required. All of these, what area you're searching in, required, required, required. I want to know. And then I'm going to do one more question here, a little out of order. I'm going to say, what are the top 10 things you're searching for in your home? Now, if I'm looking at this logically, it doesn't make any sense for me to say, are you currently set up on an MLS search between these two questions? I really want that, that are you currently set up on an MLS search question to be at the very end of this section, right? So the way that I'm going to change the order of that is really simple. I've created this question here. It's got long answer text. I'm perfectly happy with that. If I want to move a question, there are these 6 dots up top as I hover over a question that allow me to move it. It gives me the little crosshairs here. You see that? I can click on that and I can just move it up and change where I want it to appear within the form, okay? And you might end up doing a lot of that to get it just right. If you're like me, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to this. I want everything to make sense. I want it to be like a story when they're filling out the form. I want everything to have a chronological sense to it. All right, I think I'm going to stop there on building it out. Do you guys have any additional questions on building out a form? I saw something come up on the chat here. Let me see. Oh, somebody asked, can you reorder the questions after you write them? And I happened to cover that, like right on cue. It made it look like I saw the question in the chat. Man, wow. All right. So now I want to show you, if there aren't any other questions about building out questions within a form and building out sections, I want to show you a little bit about how to customize the form. So one more time I'll ask, does anybody have any questions about building out a form? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on to personalizing, okay? Once I get the form working exactly the way that I want it to, and I've previewed it and I'm satisfied with the way my business is going to be represented by this form, I'm going to click on the little palette that Daly was asking about earlier that says Customize Theme. When I click on this, I can pick a color. For us, I always like to pick our 33.99.33 green and click Add. And then it's going to automatically make sure that we've got the BHGRE green as the primary color for the form, right? If you haven't memorized 33.99.33 yet, you might as well, because if you're typing in hex codes, it's a good one to have memorized. So 33.99.33. You multiply 33 by 3, you get 99. You divide it by 3, you get 33. Just build it all into a math equation. It's going to be fine. That's how I do everything. That's life, okay? All right. So now your buyer pre-consultation form has a little bit of color to it. And if I want there to be a header, I could actually go into Canva and create an image that I want to appear up top. So I could click on Choose Image here, and I can pick just about whatever I want. I can upload my own, or I can pick one that they've created here. And I'll pick this, is that a hippo? I think it might be a hippo, but I'm gonna pick it just because I don't want to spend too much time looking through what options they have. Oh, that's a frog. Why did I think that was a hippo? It was a very mossy hippo nose. So anyway, you can pick an image to have a go, but it is going to change the color to match that image. Did you guys notice that? When I picked an image that Google had pre-selected, it changed the color from that 33.99.33 green to something that looks a little bit more like vomit to me. So I don't love it, but it is what it is, and we're going to move on. Let's talk a little bit about what you might ask in a listing form similar to this. And before I move on, any questions about personalizing the form? I'll give you a quick idea of what this personalization looks like to the buyer when they're filling it out. Okay. I'll show you what mine looks like one more time so you see it. Let's do. I still need to get a new picture with Janelle in here. Good grief. So anyway, we've got this, and I just have it set up so that they see see a picture and the 33.99, 33 green. Okay. Very good. Get out of my way, toolbar. Sorry, the Zoom toolbar is in my way. Okay, I am now going to open up my listing form so that you can see what it looks like. Bear with me for a second. So I have basically built in the majority of the phone interview that you have for Ninja into a form so that, again, when I'm calling somebody for that first time, especially if it's somebody that I don't know, I can really spend the amount of time that they're willing to spend on the phone, building rapport, establishing a relationship, answering any questions that I know that they're going to have up front, finding common ground, common interest, that kind of thing, rather than having to jump into questions that they might rather answer if they had a little bit of time to do it. Okay, so for this one, it looks very similar to the buyer one. They need to type in their email address.
Just to make sure that I'm saying this right, the question was asked, does it automatically save the info or is there a save button? But it automatically saves, right, Alex?
Yeah, as you're building it out, just like with Google Docs and with Google Sheets and anything Google, it is automatically saving every time you edit it, okay? So you don't have to worry about clicking the save button or anything like that. All of your work will be there, okay? So again, they need to mark that they've read these forms or the agency disclosures. Home info and history. What is the address? Do they currently live in the property? Are they an owner occupant? Or is it currently occupied by a tenant? Right? I'm going to mark yes. Are you an owner of the property? I have this one set up because it's something that's popped up for me before. So if they mark no and they click next, it says, sorry, you must own the home to schedule a listing consultation. You don't have to do it that way, but I've had that happen before, and so I built it into my form. If they mark yes, they get to move forward. Briefly describe the home. How many bedrooms are in your home? How many full bathrooms are in your home? It really boils, like, once I want them to describe it. Now, you might be thinking, well, I can pull all of this up on the tax records. I don't know about you guys, but I can't count the number of times when the tax records haven't been correct by the time I showed up to the property. So I make sure that I ask all of this ahead of time so that I get it directly from them so that I know the most up-to-date information about the property. I'm going to move quickly through this test. And on this one, I do boil down full versus half baths. Okay, what attracted you to this home when you purchased it? Describe any improvements you have made since you have owned the home. Did they replace the HVAC? Sure. And then I asked a 1 to 10 question. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think that your home fits? 1 being very poor condition, 10 being a model home. So you can even build that kind of a question up with Google Forms. In this case, I marked, I am unsure of the condition of the home. And sometimes we have that kind of a thing pop up where maybe they've never been in the home before. Maybe they inherited it and they live out of state. So we do have that kind of a thing happen. So I wanted to make sure that that was in the form as well. Are you aware of any major maintenance items that should be taken care of? Roof needs to be replaced. In your opinion, what could you do to improve your home? Paint the cabinets white. Next. Are you interviewing any other real estate professionals for the listing? Now, you might decide that this is a question that's better asked over the phone or in person, just because it could come off as aggressive. In my opinion, it's something that I feel more comfortable asking when it's through a form rather than when I'm over the phone. So I decided to go ahead and build it in. It's a question that I always want to ask, but sometimes I talk myself out of asking it when I'm in person. So that's just me. You kind of do your own thing on that. How much do you hope to sell the home for? I always want to ask that question, make sure that they are reasonable. Which of these is most important to you when pricing the property? The speed of the sale, the dollar amount, or unsure? Again, you might decide that that's not the kind of question you want to ask. What services are most important to you when selecting your broker? This really helps me when if I have this before I go into my listing consultation, it really helps me tailor the services that I'm going to be discussing with them toward what they're looking for in their real estate professional, right? So I'm asking this up front so that I can specifically tailor my consultation to their needs. What qualities are most important to you when selecting your broker? And then again, which Goering Group agent are you planning to work with? And then contact information, your name, phone number, preferred method of contact. I need to move that so that it's it's like repeating the thing, isn't it? Oh, here we go. Do you need to sell your current home before you can purchase your next home? No. What is the ideal closing date? So they can put that in. When would you like to list the home? In the next 2 weeks. If an appointment has not yet been scheduled, what day would you like to meet with us? They can put in their consultation date or mark an appointment has already been set. And then they can click submit. And then just like with the buyer consultation, I will receive that in my email. So it really works in a really sleek way. You can customize it to no end. I recommend that you keep it a pretty reasonable length. I wouldn't go any longer than what I did. In fact, probably my listing consultation is just a little too long. So I might even shorten it just a little bit. But you can customize it. You can put it on your website and you can send it out as an email. I'll kind of walk you through the ways that you can send it to people next, okay? So
there's also, Alex, there's also a question on how you added the photos next to the agent you wanted to work with.
So that's something that's a little bit more difficult to talk about. There's a way to do it. Let me show you really quick. I'll see if I can do it quickly. Let me give you an example here. We'll say, what color do you like most? Okay. Option 1, I can say blue. And then over here, you have a little add image button. And we're going to pick this one and click insert. And it's just put this picture right in here, okay? Good question. And in fact, I think they've made this easier. I feel like I had to do some like programming bits when I did this before in order to make that happen. But they've actually made it even easier to do that. You can upload your own picture or you can use pictures that come up through a Google image search. Good question. All right, next, I'm going to show you how to send your form, okay? So here's your pre-listing interview. I find out that I've got a relocation seller or somebody that somebody has sent to me. I call them. I have a good rapport with them for about 5 to 10 minutes. And at the end of the call, I say, in order for me to really help you and tailor my consultation to the best of your needs, I would really appreciate it if you would take some time to fill out a form so that I can help gather some information about your home before I meet with you. Pull the comps a little bit more effectively, get to know a little bit more about you and what kind of services you're needing from me. So if you wouldn't mind just taking about 10 minutes or so to fill that out, is that something that you'd be willing to help me with? They're gonna say, yeah, sure, that's fine. All you have to do to send that to them is open up the form in your Google Drive, click the send button. It's going to give you an option to put in their email address, okay? So this is one way you could do it. Another way, it'll give you the link. So if you are on the phone with them and they prefer text messaging, and you think they might be willing to fill out this form via text message, which people are willing to do sometimes. I've done that before. You can copy the link and just text it to them, and they can click on that and fill it out right on their phone. Or like for me on my website, I've embedded my forms and it gives you an embed HTML that I'm not going to show you how to use because that's overly complicated. But if that's something that you would like, I'm sure that myself or somebody within the company would be willing to help you put that on your webpage, okay? But it's really, really simple to send this form out. There are two other options that I don't necessarily recommend that you use right away anyway. You've got an option to post the form on Facebook. Probably not going to get a lot of activity when you post a form like this to Facebook. This is the kind of thing that you really, if posting it on Facebook from Google, you're not going to get a ton of views on it anyway because it's coming from a third party. Facebook really prefers native content, so it's probably not going to be the best use of the form. And in addition, you're probably going to get a lot of fake clicks on it. So people could click on this. I get them all the time. I don't know about you all, but even on the forms that we have on our website, I get fake inquiries almost weekly saying, you know, it's a fake name, a fake phone number, and then it's some marketing thing saying, you know, look, you opened this. Why don't you mark it in the same way by falsely filling out people's forms? You're going to get more of that if you broadcast a form like this. I really recommend sending it to people or putting it directly on your website rather than putting it out on Facebook and just receiving fake leads, okay? The other option is to tweet it. And same thing there, don't do that. That's a weird thing to do. Don't tweet a form. I've never seen that be a good, effective social media strategy, tweeting forms. I don't think I've read that in Inman. All right, any additional questions about using Google Forms for automating this part of your business? We're coming up to the end here. I'm not hearing any other questions. Anything that I haven't covered that you would like me to cover? Not hearing anything. Well, I think we're done then. You guys, this has been a good session and you've been a good audience. And if you ever need anything surrounding Google Forms or anything else, I'm always happy to help and assist. Christian, was there anything that you wish I would have covered that I did not?
No, I think you did an awesome job. It was very thorough. Very, very thorough.
Somebody asked if how you can post it to your website.
Oh yeah, again, so there's a way to do that using HTML coding. That would take a whole other hour to describe that. But if that's something that you would like, once you have it built up, feel free to let me know and I could assist with that. It's a fairly simple thing, and actually you could. We might be able to talk a little bit more about that later, just because I think customizing your website is something that we'll probably be talking a lot more about in the near future.